Tonight, we will first let the record show that all board members are present with the exception of Trustee Neal and Trustee Herrera, which are both en route. And we'll start tonight with item number 2 on our agenda, prayer and pledges. Tonight's prayer will be by Trustee Lowe and pledges by Trustee Fluginger.
Please bow your head. Father, we come to you today. We'd just like to thank you for the many blessings you've given us this past week, Heavenly Father. And Father, just be with our people that are serving in the armed services, that put your loving arms around them and bring them back safely, Father. Father, just be with us tonight as we do the business for the district, that we will do and say everything that we approve for you, Heavenly Father. Now, all these things I ask in Jesus' name, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
You were closer than I thought you were.
Thank you, trustees. I'll take us to item number 3, public comment, and we have 1, maybe 2 tonight. I will call your names in a minute with the order that the requests were received. But before, I'd like to read a small excerpt about public comment. Now is the time to hear public comments. Before we begin, I want to make you aware of board policy related to public comments. No presentation shall exceed 3 minutes, and public comments must not mention any employees by name or position or contain any personally identifiable reference. A timer will start on the screen when you begin, and there will be a sound when the time has elapsed. We ask that you please share your name and direct your remarks to the board. According to law, the board may not take action on any item that is not on the agenda. Specific factual information or recitation of existing policy may be furnished in response to inquiries, but the board shall not deliberate or decide regarding any subject that is not included on the agenda posted with notice of the meeting. The board will seriously consider the matter brought to its attention appropriately. Please know that your comments are very important to us, and we thank you for your input to Waller. So, a lot of words to say that what we can and can't do by law, but ultimately we're glad you're here. We appreciate you being here, talking to us. It's the way that we get to know what our community is thinking and believes and shares with us. So relax and enjoy it. So the first speaker we have, is there Megan Cheshire here? No? Okay, no Megan. Kristen Gunderson. Welcome up to the podium. And you'll be able to see your timer on the screens there. So.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Kristen Gunderson. I am a Waller County resident, a parent of 2 children in Waller ISD, and a business owner with offices in both Waller and Hempstead. I absolutely acknowledge the growth of Waller County. I have served on 2 of the last 3 Waller ISD bond committees, so I understand infrastructure, planning, and preparing for future needs. The county does need space. Waller CAD boardroom is small, and additional board members may be required. The concerns are real. My goal tonight is not to oppose growth. It is to encourage thoughtful sequencing before committing to a $10 million capital expansion. The current Waller CAD building is 10,000 square feet and houses 23 employees. That equals approximately 435 square feet per employee. Even with projected growth of up to 35 employees over the next 10 years, that equals about 285 square feet per employee. Modern office planning suggests standard range of 175 to 250 square feet per employee. This suggests space optimization and modernization should be evaluated first. One immediate solution that I have is digitalization. The estimated cost to digitalize back files is approximately $30,000, less than 1/2 of 1% of the proposed expansion costs. The bigger impact is productivity. If digitalization and workflow automation save just 30 minutes per employee per day through faster file retrieval, reduced paper handling, and AI-assisted processing, that equals 2,875 labor hours annually. That is equivalent to 1.4 full-time employees. At an estimated fully loaded cost per employee of approximately $80,000, that represents over $110,000 per year in productivity value saved. That's more than $1 million over 10 years. That is really meaningful. Additionally, another suggestion would be the ARB meetings should be scheduled. They can be staggered at 15-minute intervals rather than having a large group show up all at once and then they're complaining about the parking lots being full. Another solution is having hybrid or virtual meeting options, and that could significantly reduce the parking congestion, increase citizen convenience, and reduce the need for large physical space that they're requesting for parking. My main point is technology has not been fully implemented at this office. Digital records, AI-assisted appraisal tools, automated documenting indexing, and virtual hearing options are standard in many.
Thank you, Ms. Gunderson. Okay. That will take us to item number 4, meeting recess to closed session. At this time, in accordance with section 551071 and 551089 inclusive Texas Government Code, Texas Open Meeting Law, BEC Legal, we will recess to closed session to talk about some different things that need some confidentiality, like safety, security, like personnel items, things of that nature. And we will be back shooting for about 6:30. So I have 5:09 and I have us recessed. All right, good evening. By my clock, I have 6:30, I think 6:38. I'm going to call the meeting back to order. That will take us to item number, let's see, 6:38. Item number 6, consent agenda. So board members, a few days ago, you received the consent agenda. I had time to look it over. At this time would be the time to take any questions or comments regarding the consent agenda. I guess before I start with the consent agenda, we need to pull item 6I, the Waller County elections. There's still some work to be done there. So we're going to pull that from consent agenda. We're going to vote for it separately after consent before item 7, and then go from there. So board members, any questions or comments regarding consent agenda? I'd just like to make a quick comment regarding 6B, the budget amendments. When I looked into it, it's my understanding that 6B, we had a budget amendment due to donations from individuals that like to stay anonymous. So we love those budget amendments. And although they're anonymous for now, I sure appreciate the community and them giving back to our society and our community in order to help the schools out. Question on 6C, I just want to confirm that the E-rate that's eligible for federal reimbursement, correct?
Ms. Ambridge, can you take that?
Yes, that is eligible for our E-rate program, and so it is an 80/20 reimbursement. And then this is also going to be eligible for a TEA grant, which is why we're bringing Category 1 now, so we can get that approved by E-rate, and then once it's approved by E-rate, then we can apply for the TEA grant. And then we'll bring Category 2 E-rate purchases most likely in March.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, board members, anything else on consent? If not, I'll consider a motion on item 6, consent agenda.
I move that we approve the consent agenda without item I. So consent agenda, all items with the exception of item I as presented.
Second.
There's a motion by trustee Comiskey and seconded by trustee Lowe that we approve the consent agenda. Board members, any final questions or comments before you vote? Please cast your votes. All votes in. Motion passes 7-4, 0 against, 0 abstain. And with that, I don't know if there's any CTE. Yep, I see some CTE faces. Want to wish, or ROTC as well. Want to wish ROTC good luck in Orlando and Cincinnati when they go for their competitions. So the national competitions, they always present and represent us well. So, all right. So now we will take a motion on 6I. Waller County Elections Joint Election Agreement and Contract for Election Services.
I make a motion that we approve item 6I, Waller County Elections Joint Election Agreement and Contract for Election Services, May 2nd, 2026, and delegate authority to the superintendent or his designee to finalize and execute the contract.
Second.
It's been moved by trustee Flukinger and seconded by trustee Comiskey that we approve item 6I. Okay. Board members, any final questions or comments? All right, please cast your votes. All votes in. Motion passes 7-4, 0 against, 0 abstain. Takes us to item 7, public hearing for District Annual Report 24-25, presented by Director of Assessment and Accountability, Ms. Hannah Gates.
Good evening, President Warren, the members of the board, and Superintendent Mays. Tonight, I'm here to present our annual district report of the Texas Academic Performance Report. This report does have 8 sections, and most of that data is from the 24-25 school year. However, some indicators are lagging, and I will explain that when I get there. This information is all posted on our website as well, as it is public information. So there are 8 sections. That first section we're going to talk about is the TAPER report. It is all of our accountability test data, lots and lots of data I will dive into. We have our PEIMS financial standard report, our district accreditation status, our campus performance objectives. We have a report on our violent or criminal incidents on our campuses. We have student performance in post-secondary institutions. We have our progress toward our House Bill 3 board goals, and we have a glossary with all of the terms explained that I'm going to go over today. Okay, so that first section, this is a very unique report. It's our TAPER report. Most accountability reports give that aggregate number, which summarizes multiple groups, multiple assessments. However, this report does break it down into a very granular level. So if there's any information you want in a specific area or a specific group, that would be provided in our TAPER reports. So it is a PDF. We do have one for the district and one for each campus. All of these reports are also linked in the header of this presentation as well. Our the cover page will talk about the accountability rating, which was a C for 24-25, our SPED determination status, which was needs improvement, our ASVAB test information, as well as our distinctions, which we had 5 for our district, our distinction designations. The first big section is all about STAR, and it is starting on page 3. This is a great comparison to our region and state data with a 2-year, year-over-year comparison of information. So again, if you're comparing 2 years, these are not the same students. So for example, last year's 5th graders, you would have to compare, if you wanted to look at that same cohort, the previous year's 4th graders. So you can look at year to year, and you can also follow cohorts backwards. It gives us our multiple student groups, and this does include our accountability subset, which comes from our snapshot, which is the last Friday in October. So it includes our school progress, and it has our annual growth. So beyond raw scores, we do look at growth and how much academic ground our students gained year over year. We also track that accelerated learning and that 14-16 performance. And we look at who did not pass the previous year to ensure they're getting the support they need to get back on track. All of this information is starting on page 12. For example, if a student was behind grade level in 2024, but moved closer or reached grade level in 2025, the school gets higher marks for growth, even if the student isn't at that A rating yet. So that's where really we talk about growth wins a lot. For example, in our RLA and math assessments across the board, we did have some good gains in growth, higher than the region and the state. The next section talks about bilingual education, and it details the performance of our emergent bilingual and ESL programs. We monitor various instructional models to ensure our language learners are achieving at high levels in all subject areas. And this is listed all of the programs, however, the data will only include programs that we offer here in Waller. That next section of the first section of the annual report is the STAR participation. And this is all of the data on who tested and what our percentage of our students tested in each subject, whether they were absent or didn't test for other reasons. Those percentages are all there. The next section talks about the attendance, graduation, and dropout rates for the last 2 years. This is a lagging indicator, so this is going to be your 23-24 data and 22-23 data compared. This includes our longitudinal graduation rates and our graduation profile, which breaks down our graduates by ethnicity and program. And you can see all of the different information that section provides. The next part is our college, career, and military readiness. Again, lagging indicator, so it is those same 2 years. This CCMR is a key priority in Waller. We look at indicators like SAT, ACT results, our AP performance, dual credit completion, industrial-based certifications to ensure our graduates are ready for life after high school. This section also includes graduates enrolled in Texas institutions of higher education, and that information is starting with that class of 21-22. The next section talks about our student and staff information and program enrollment. This is a snapshot of our district. It gives our enrollment numbers, staff classifications, teacher experience levels, average salaries, and giving us a clear picture of all of the human resources that we are using to support our students. And now we're to section 2. That was the longest, though. Section 2 includes the PEIMS Financial Standards Report. This is actual data that covers our revenues, expenditures, and fund balances at both district and campus levels. Section 3 talks about our district accreditation, and we're pleased to report that our accreditation status for the 23-24 school year is accredited. And this is based on academic and financial accountability as well as data integrity. And as of today, they posted the 24-25 and 25-26 accreditation, and we are also accredited those years. The section 4 talks about our campus performance objectives. So each of our campuses have a campus improvement plan with specific performance objectives that have been approved by the board. If you remember in the fall, all of our principals did those wonderful presentations to share all of their goals and strategies. These plans are live documents used to measure progress throughout the year And 3 times throughout the year, the campus leadership teams assess their progress on each strategy within their goals. They will determine what progress towards the goal has been met, as well as what needs to be reviewed or adjusted to continue. In November and February of every year, they will choose to discontinue the goal or mark the goal as either no progress, some progress, moderate progress, considerate progress, or accomplished. So you can see all of those levels as they progress through the school year. And so in May, at the end of the year, they will determine if they accomplished the goal or if they need to continue, modify, or discontinue that goal. The Section 5 talks about the report on violent or criminal incidents in Waller ISD. Safety is our top priority. As required, we do provide this report on any violent or criminal incidents. We talk about the number, rate, and type of violent or criminal incidents that occurred on each campus, with some descriptions of our violence prevention and intervention policies as well. Section 6 talks about our student performance in our post-secondary institutions. We track how our graduates perform in their first year of college. So we use data from the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board, and we look at the average GPA of our graduates attending Texas public universities, with the most current report being from our graduating class of 2023. 2024 data is coming any day, so feel free to check out that website. That's public information as well. It was really great information. Section 7 talks about our House Bill 3 board goals. I did present the progress towards these board goals back in October. And Section 8 is the glossary. We do have the glossary in English and Spanish, and this just gives us definitions for all of the information and the terms that are used throughout the report. So at this time, I would like to ask if there's any questions.
Board members, any questions?
I guess I'll go first. So in the report, that referenced the district improvement plan, and in the district improvement plan, we had priority items listed, and so we honed in on 10 priority problem statements. And so in that report, I think all of them showed what they called some progress. And
Correct.
So I wondered if you would speak a little bit to our progress against what we defined as our 10 priority statements, problem statements.
So that formative assessment was done in November. And so when we look at all of these goals, most of them require an entire school year to reach the goal. And so at that time, I would call it between some and moderate progress, depending on what the strategies are. Sometimes we're on the more conservative side to use that some progress, but by November, we don't have data, we don't have any test scores, there's not a lot of information we have, so there is very limited progress at that time. I do expect you to see much bigger gains in February. Campuses in the district are currently working on those February formative assessments right now.
So would they be filling that in based on internal benchmarks or map tests? And is that why so I guess the good news is some progress means we're going the right direction. It doesn't say we're stagnant.
Correct.
So, which is, I guess you would expect to see at this report some progress if things are going well.
Correct. We don't want to see no progress. It
Yeah.
means that we have not taken any action on those items. But some progress means we are taking steps. And so while we may not have benchmarks to measure those steps that we've taken, whether it's test data or not, we are putting in the steps in our action plan. That's kind of what we define some progress.
Okay, thanks.
Board members, any questions?
Since this is a public hearing, I have to open it to the floor for any questions as well. Are there any questions? Perfect.
Very good. And this is something we need to vote on to approve, correct?
I
It's
don't
just
think so.
information. Okay. Very good. Well, thank you so much, Ms. Gates.
And also, just to reiterate, for anyone that's sitting in the audience and may not be an employee, this is on the website, and it's under, I think, the district required reports.
Yes, it's under the curriculum and instruction page. There's a district reports. It says district annual report, as well as all of the TAPER reports at the district and campus levels are individual links. But within the district, every section is linked as well.
Great, thank you. Okay, very good. Take us to our regular agenda, item number 8A, 26-27 school calendar recommendations, presented by Chief Academic Officer Dr. Megan White and the Calendar Subcommittee.
Good evening, President Warren, Superintendent Mays, and board members. Tonight, we are providing an update on the development of the 2026-2027 Waller ISD academic calendar and bringing a recommendation forward for your consideration. This presentation reflects the work of our calendar subcommittee, which includes representation from campuses, district departments, and our community. I would like to introduce you to some of the members of our calendar subcommittee. Amanda Warren. You want to wave? Shauna Solt, Nadia Fonseca, Laura Tolliver, Shelley Brooks, Mindy Bowling, Leslie Dimmer, and Jessica Taxiarhu. I am now going to turn this presentation over to our subcommittee.
So we began by gathering input from stakeholders through the district-wide survey. Parents, teachers, staff, students, and community members shared feedback on start dates, breaks, instructional minutes, and overall calendar structure. The next slides highlight the major trends that shaped our design work. Our initial survey was open from October 20th through October 31st, 2025. We received 1,459 responses, 510 employees, 947 parents and guardians, 74 additional family members, 144 students, 20 community members. This broad participation ensures the subcommittee was working with well-rounded perspectives when reviewing draft calendars. On this slide, stakeholders share two key insights. First, most respondents, 68%, reported high satisfaction with the current calendar. Second, opinions were mixed on aligning with neighboring districts. About 47% said alignment is important. 30% said it's not. The districts referenced most often were Cy-Fair ISD, Magnolia, and Tomball.
Okay, so from the survey, two clear trends emerged. 70% of our stakeholders said that early release works well for their families, and 71% of the respondents preferred a Wednesday start to the school year. We also learned that 59% of our respondents are interested in a full week fall break, even knowing that it may require some adjustments for other parts of the calendar. And on the question aligning the Waller County Fair, responses were mixed, and so we took that into consideration, although it wasn't our primary driver for the design process with the calendar. And then when asked how many calendar options our respondents wanted to see during a final vote, 66% preferred 2 options, and that guided our decision to narrow the drafts to 2 calendars for the January vote.
Next, we examined feedback specifically from staff. Their perspective helped guide decisions through the lens of instructional pacing, professional development, and teacher workload. The next few slides summarize these trends. Among staff responders, 62% were instructional staff. This gives a strong insight into classroom needs when asked about preferred PD days per semester. The largest group, 35%, preferred 2. This supports maintaining a balanced PD structure without pulling excessively from instructional time. We also asked about professional learning before the start of the school year. 58% said 5 days is sufficient. Staff preferred one district-led PD day before school began. Exchange days remain important among staff to whom they apply. An overwhelming number preferred 2 exchange days. This supports incorporating 2 PD days into our calendar drafts.
So with the broad feedback collected, we then shifted into the calendar design process. The next slides will show the structured approach we followed to develop a legally compliant, instructional, and operationally sound calendar. In October, the initial survey was conducted. In November, the draft calendars were developed. On December 2nd, the subcommittee work session occurred in person. And then following that meeting in December, the calendar refinements were completed. During January, the stakeholder vote occurred with the 2 final options. On February 4th, the district site-based decision-making committee previewed the final calendar recommendation and presentation. And today, on February 12th, the final calendar recommendation is presented to the board for board recommendation and adoption. This approach ensured multiple layers of feedback and transparency.
We had a lot of fun on December the 2nd. Right? We did. Our calendar subcommittee consisted of members of our district site-based decision-making committee. Teachers, parents, community members all joined us that day. During our December 2nd work session, representatives reviewed the survey data. Draft calendars were also considered. The goal was to align stakeholder preferences with instructional and operational needs and leave with 2 finalized calendar drafts. Our calendar subcommittee spent time reviewing calendar parameters, calendars already released from neighboring school districts, as we heard, stakeholder survey responses, and finally, 3 draft versions of the calendar. We broke into 2 rounds of collaborative conversation and feedback before completing an exit ticket. There we are. Round 1, small groups evaluated each draft using guiding questions that focused on instructional flow, holiday placement, the break structure, and other major considerations. Each group identified strengths and areas needing revision of the calendars that they were reviewing. These are photos from round 1. And then for round 2, we rearranged the groups. A new collaborative group then began to synthesize the findings from round 1, and we considered each of the highlights and the notes on the calendar comments. They compared themes, identified necessary revisions, determined which elements most strongly aligned with the stakeholder feedback and district priorities before we shared with everyone.
From these discussions, the subcommittee recommended several adjustments. Refinement of spring break placement, which we compared Cy-Fair ISD, Magnolia ISD, and Tomball ISD's released calendars. Adjustments to teacher work days, waiver days, exchange days, and student holidays. Revisions to fall break in calendar A. 1 draft was removed and 2 were moved forward with revisions. Because break placement was a significant topic of discussion, a follow-up survey focused specifically on spring break and fall break was issued. This allowed the subcommittee to reach clear consensus before finalizing the drafts.
Here are the follow-up survey results from the subcommittee. Spring break, 81% preferred March 8th through the 12th on both calendars. And fall break in calendar A, 86 preferred October 1st, 2nd, 5th, and 6th. Based on those results, spring break remained March 8th through 12th on both calendars. Fall break in calendar A remained October 1st, 2nd, 5th, and 6th. With these decisions made, both drafts were ready for the next steps in the calendar development process.
All right. We then launched the district-wide vote, which was open from January 12th to the 23rd. The following slides will summarize the data from the stakeholder vote. The breakdown of stakeholder responses was 2,005 total responses, 724 staff members, 289 students, 1,085 parents, 163 community members. Because of respondents were able to select multiple roles within the survey, the subgroup counts exceed the total number of survey responses. With the vote complete, Waller ISD administration and calendar subcommittees are presenting the final recommended calendar. Calendar A is being brought forward for board consideration. This slide outlines key elements of the recommended calendar A, including 182 teacher contract days, 76,510 total instructional minutes, 2.04 bank days, 5 waiver days, 2 exchange days, August 11th as the first day of school, May 19th as the last day of school. And you can also see the dates for fall, Thanksgiving, winter, Christmas, and spring breaks. Because the alignment of the fall break to the Waller County Fair was important to both the calendar subcommittee and the Waller community as represented in the initial calendar survey, and in order to protect the valued district-involved events during that time frame, our fall break is split over a 2-week period, beginning on Thursday, October 1st, and with students returning to school on Wednesday, October 7th.
We will now answer any questions you may have.
First, I thank the committee. I know how hard it is to, as busy as we all are, I know how hard it is to find extra time to come up and spend days or evenings at the school. So thank you for your work. It's also probably a lot easier when the votes or the surveys come out like 80% to 20% rather than, I remember what came 55, 45 somewhere along those lines. Can you talk a little bit about, yeah, and I'm glad you did the surveys because it reaches out to our community and gives everyone a voice. Can you talk about some of the challenges that you may have had with the schedules or the surveys coming back, and then the committee and the work they had to do to try to meet all of the community requests with logistics of the calendar?
Sure, I can speak to that, and then if anybody else wants to chime in, that would be great too. But yes, so the first thing that was interesting was on the initial survey with 59% of respondents saying that they were interested in a fall break, and then ultimately the fall break calendar passing at 56%. So, I felt like that was very consistent. Some things that came up in the calendar subcommittee. So the original drafts that were taken to the calendar subcommittee had spring break aligned with Cy-Fair ISD because that was represented in our community feedback. They also had a full week for fall break. And so those were two big topics of conversation with our calendar subcommittee. So I would say the main reason that spring break, let's go there first, that spring break ended up in its current place instead of aligned with Cy-Fair is because another thing that came up in subcommittee was Better Monday. Everybody really likes to have Better Monday off. And so we were able to put that into both calendar drafts. But then when you look at the months, then what happened if you pushed spring break into the place where Cy-Fair has it is a week off and then returning to a 4-day week with Good Friday and then another 4-day week with Better Monday. And so the subcommittee felt that it was too much interruption in March right before state testing season, not really having any continuity leading right up into April. And so that ultimately drove the spring break decision to keep it where it was, to at least get the kids back for a full week before we start taking holidays again. With fall break, we also had interesting conversations with that. The community initial survey was split on whether that needed to align with Cy-Fair or whether it needed to align with the Waller County Fair. And so in honoring the voices of the subcommittee, we felt that that was still an important part of our community and of our culture, that we wanted to make sure that we were able to overlap at least slightly with the Waller County Fair. But we didn't want to take off that full week because Wednesday of Fair Week is a very important event for us with Barnyard Buddies. So where that put us was taking off the end of Fair Week and then bleeding over into the beginning of the following week, giving us a 6-day break if you count the weekend. So we had a lot of conversation about that, and that's where we landed. So I would say our break placements were probably the biggest topic of conversation. Agreed? Yeah.
It's funny, it's sometimes not what you say, but what you don't say. There was a couple of times you said, we've had a lot of conversation there. There was a lot of, you could, just watching their heads go simultaneously. Yes. My last question, what's an exchange day?
So an exchange day allows professional staff members to be able to work days in the summer for professional learning and then trade them for professional learning days during the school year without interrupting instruction.
Those are probably pretty popular.
Yes, yes. We had one this past year and everybody wanted two.
Very good. Okay, board members, any other questions? No? Okay, if not, I will consider a motion on 8A. And that was the presentation of calendar A, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I make a motion that we accept the calendar as for the 2026-2027 school calendar recommendation as presented by Chief Academic Officer Megan White and the calendar subcommittee members Amanda Warren, Shauna Solt, Nadia Fontesca, Laura Tolliver, Shelley Brooks, Mindy Bowling, Leslie Dimmer, Becky Spiegel, and Jessica Taxahari.
Second.
Was that Comiskey or Flukinger? It's moved by trustee Neal and seconded by trustee Flukinger that we approve 8A for calendar A. Board members, any final questions or comments before you vote? Please cast your votes. All votes in. Motion passes 7-4, 0 against, 0 abstain. All right, well, thank you one more time to the committee members.
Thank you.
All right, take us to item 8B, TEA expedited waivers, presented again by Chief Academic Officer Megan White.
Just going to stay right here. I tried to figure out if I should run and present from there, but. Administration is requesting approval of 3 TEA designated expedited waivers that support district operations while maintaining compliance with the Texas Education Agency requirements. These waivers are routinely requested and approved by TEA on a recurring basis. The first one is the Teacher Portal for Texas Assessment Program Data Waiver. This allows the district to provide teachers with secure access to state assessment data through a locally adopted system rather than through the state portal. We accomplish this through the use of Eduphoria. This waiver has been approved since 2012. The second one is the Modified Schedule State Assessment Testing Days waiver, which allows the district to modify class schedules for students who are not being tested so that they may report to school after the testing period has ended, reducing interruptions during testing while still meeting minimum attendance requirements for funding. This is typically you see at the high school. This is another waiver that's been approved routinely since 2014. And the last one is the Professional Development Waiver, which supports the inclusion of up to 2,100 minutes of professional development embedded in the adopted instructional calendar and it allows the district to meet instructional minute requirements while providing job-embedded professional learning for staff. So if you look at the draft of Calendar A, which you just approved, there will be 5 waiver days in there at 420 minutes apiece. All waivers align with current district practices and have been reviewed through appropriate district processes. Administration recommends approval as presented.
Thank you. Board members, any questions? If not, I'll consider a motion for 8B.
I move that we approve the expedited waivers, staff development minutes, 2026, 2027, teacher data portal of Texas Assessment Management System 2026-27 and 2027-28, and modified schedule state assessment testing days 2026 and 2027, and 2027 and 2028 as presented.
Second. It's been moved by trustee Flukinger and seconded by trustee Campbell that we approve 8B. Board members, any other final questions or comments before you vote? Please cast your votes. All votes in. Motion passes 7-4, 0 against, 0 abstain. All right, thank you very much. All right, item 8C, consider resolution in accordance with Senate Bill 1189th legislative session presented by Ms. Ellen Spaulding.
Good evening, board members. Thank you for this opportunity. So, as you may know, in the 89th legislative session, the legislature passed Senate Bill 11, which is a statute that requires every school board in the state of Texas to make a decision prior to March 1 on whether to adopt a policy requiring a daily period of prayer. If the district decides to do that, there are then statutory specific requirements that the district must engage in order to have this daily period of prayer and comply with the statute. So your job tonight, board members, is to make a decision as to whether you wish to adopt a resolution to have such a policy, reject a resolution to have such a policy, or do anything in between. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Board members, any questions?
Benny, can we have someone kind of review with us what we currently do towards the intent of Senate Bill 11?
Ms. Marcus, can you share what we currently do?
Sorry, let me get the right screen up. So we, all of our campuses observe a moment of silence. Many of our campuses have partnerships with local churches. Some of our staffs at various campuses have morning prayer groups. Some of our campuses also have student-led See You at the Pole activities. At our high school, we have FCA, our Fellowship of Christian Athletes, National Night of Prayer. So there is a number of faith-based activities that occurs that is both student-led and staff-led at all of our campuses. We also have a couple of churches that utilize our facilities on a regular basis.
Thank you, Sarah.
Any other questions, board members? I've got a few. I mean, we still have a moment of silence in our day for students to pray as desired, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so during that time, they can pray. There's never been any, anyone has been able to bring a Bible and read the Bible anytime they've wanted, anywhere they wanted in school, right? I want to make sure for the record, I support prayer in schools. I mean, we support prayer in board meetings. I mean, I'm not sure if every board across the state does it, but I know that we start our meetings with prayer, and I don't ever intend to see that changing. I don't ever want to see the moment of silence taken away in schools, right? I don't ever want to see us not allowing a child to read the Bible, in schools. I think this is very, very important. I think it's the foundation of our society. Just a lot of questions with this resolution. What constitutes a period? It says, State Bill 11 says we have to have a period of prayer. Is that time limit defined? Is it we have 8 periods now? Does our day become 9 periods? Or?
It's not defined in the statute. The statute allows a period of prayer either during the instructional day or before school, if it were to be adopted, with the requirements that go with it.
So there's some logistics there that would have to be worked out. Also logistics, if I read the bill and understand it right, waivers would go out to every student. This is every school, right? This is every elementary, every junior high, every high school. This is everybody. This is 11,000 students, right?
That is correct.
So
And your
11,000.
employees.
I'm sorry?
And to employees.
Oh, okay.
It's available to students and employees.
Okay. So this waiver would go out that they have to accept, and this is the state's language, right? That we have to accept, or that we would accept the waiver that they signed in order to participate in this period of prayer.
That's correct. They would have to consent to participate. If they didn't get a signed consent from an employee or a parent or guardian, they could not participate. And as part of that consent, they have to sign a waiver that they would not engage in a lawsuit against the school district for having this prayer.
I mean, there may not be an answer to this one, but okay, what type of logistics coordination does that? Because not just with the waiver, from what I read from SB 11, you've got to have someone that monitors, this period of prayer, whether the waiver has been signed and whether the student can enter this area for prayer.
Yeah, and I think if you're reading into it, you have to create a location or multiple locations to allow for the prayer, and of course, an individual to be able to supervise during that time.
So those are logistics that I don't know how you would begin to attack. I think it would probably even affect the calendar and the schedule, and I mean, the committee just presented to us, the hard work that they did trying to figure out how to get all the minutes into the day, into the calendar. So it would potentially even affect, the school day is what I'm understanding. Okay. Well, the resolution that was presented to us was written very well. I want to read for the public some of the things that's in the resolution that we're considering tonight. It still says Waller Independent School District recognizes and reaffirms the rights protected by the First Amendment to the United States Constitution, including free exercise clause, the establishment clause, and the free speech clause, which together protect private religious expression while prohibiting government establishment of religion in public schools. It goes on to talk about things that Ms. Marcus discussed, things that we already have in schools, the things that we encourage in Waller ISD, student-led, FCA, Fellowship of Christian Athletes, See You at the Pole, National Prayer Nights. We have prayer groups and Bible studies that are held before or after work hours already that are voluntary. Community partnerships, such as beginning of the year, building blessings by local pastors, weekend campus prayer walks, facility used by community churches. So we've got the churches in our buildings all the times. What I can't get past on SB 11 is with all that we're already doing, and with the way we encourage prayer in our schools to start with, I'm just not sure why the state would require us to vote on a very specific bill that they've created that has a whole lot of logistical challenges that I don't even think they've thought of, or that make life in school very, very difficult, arguably disruptive. Okay. Again, I think the resolution is very well written, and tonight what we're going to vote on is this resolution. As it says in 8C, consider resolution in accordance with Senate Bill 11. So our resolution is actually saying that we reject Senate Bill 11, but we will continue to do all of these things for our students and for our teachers and for our community, and still allow them to pray in schools and still allow them to read their Bibles and do all the wonderful things that we're already doing that works so well for our district. So, are there any other questions or comments regarding this? Okay. If not, I will consider a motion for item 8C.
I move that the board reject Senate Bill 11 and approve the resolution as presented, reaffirming the board's commitment to support daily pledges in a moment of silence, along with our commitment to each student and staff member's right to engage in religious activity and prayer.
It's been moved by Trustee Neal and seconded by Trustee Lowe that we approve the resolution as presented. Any final questions and comments before you vote? Please cast your votes. All votes in. Vote passes 7-4, 0 against, 0 abstain. Finally, item 8D, resolution for Waller County Appraisal District request to purchase and renovate property, presented by Waller County Appraisal District Chief Appraiser, Ms. Becky Carollo.
Thank y'all again for having me back, and thank y'all for taking the time to come and see the situation that we're in. We have looked at, as you all know, current lease spaces and so forth, and you want to step in? Sure. This is Mr. Greg Smith.
So as part of this process, the district looked at renovating a new building as well as evaluate lease spaces, what's available, what's not available, and then also looked at doing some private development, buy the building, do the renovation, and lease it back to the district. The district board of directors decided to move forward with the purchase of the property and then do an interior renovation and then some needed work to the outside, but primarily an interior renovation. You have seen the budget costs associated with those said renovations, and those said renovations are approximately half the cost of what new construction for a municipal style building is. And we used a building that was built in 2024 up in the metropolitan area of Dallas-Fort Worth, Talty City Hall. A little bit smaller, so there would be a little bit of economy of scales with this building, but that is what that number was compared to. They also looked at a private development here in Waller for a new building and then leasing it. That project was double the square foot that the district requested, and so that made the expense extremely high at almost $18 million for that project. So that's kind of the history. I know a couple of the board members and the superintendent came by and toured the existing building as well as the new building that is being proposed here in this resolution. And so we'll be glad to answer any construction questions, or the chief appraiser will answer any specific district questions. Thank you.
Board members, any questions? I just have a couple comments. Thank you for showing us around. So I took this one very seriously. I wanted to make sure that I spent time in due diligence and understanding where y'all were at, your current situation, what your needs are, making sure I understood what the community was saying, and their beliefs around it. So y'all were very, very hospitable in showing us around and talking to us, and you spent half your day with us. So thank you for that. Let me see hands-on kind of where you're at, what's going on. Where I ultimately sit with this, I just wanted to let you know kind of what I was thinking. Where I ultimately sit with this is I'm very, very proud of our administration and our Waller ISD team and our board. And when we've built a lot of buildings, and when we've built buildings, we've done it without raising the tax rate. And very, very proud of the work and the diligence that we've done when we do that. We've had to get very, very creative a lot of times. So at the end of the day, we were able to get creative, and we didn't raise the tax rate. And so what keeps, when I lay in bed at night and think about this and think about how I'm going to vote, what my gut tells me is that if I vote to increase our budget by 6 figures, it sends a message to our administration, it sends a message to our Waller ISD employees, it sends a message to our community, that their hard work and their being creative in their day-to-day business isn't as important as I would believe. So, but when in actuality it is very important, and it's our job as a board to keep taxes down and keep budgets down. And so I'm just having a hard time, looking at the numbers, having a hard time with adding 6 figures to our budget when we could do other things with it. So before I get into the resolution, is any other board members' questions or comments?
I'll just add, I was one that toured the facilities, and to echo what William said, we appreciate the time that y'all took and showed us both facilities. And for me, for my eyes, clearly you're out of space. People say, well, it could be used more efficiently. There's nothing you could do in an efficiency to remedy your space problem. So you clearly need more square feet. I think more front-end work on costs, any other options available with building professionals would be in order. But there's absolutely, in my mind, no question you need space, and you're going to need it for the foreseeable future. So, like William said, I'm in favor of doing something. I think we have to sharpen a pencil and really get to define what something is and how we bring that about. And that's where I am.
Anyone else? And so with that doing something, another very well-written resolution, we do think that you are out of space. I can't imagine trying to have meetings in that boardroom, especially, when we have a building like this. But also, I look at this building and I remember we did it without raising the tax rate. So, but with it is the well-written resolution that says we're going to disapprove or reject the request to purchase the land, but in section 2, that we remain open for you to continue doing whatever data, whatever research, whatever you've got to do, to bring another plan forward that we think we can agree on. So, all right. Anything else? Okay. If there is nothing else, I'll consider a motion for 8D.
I make a motion that the board adopts a resolution to disapprove and reject the request by the Waller County Appraisal District to purchase and renovate the proposed facility at 48600 Business 290 and secure related financing. The board remains appreciative of Waller County Appraisal District's transparency and is open to continued dialogue and future consideration of facility requests, provided they are supported by more comprehensive financial data and long-term growth planning.
I'll second.
It's been moved by Trustee Herrera and seconded by Trustee Neal that we approve the resolution. And just for the board's reminder, a yes vote approves the resolution that says we will disapprove the request and then stay open for further conversations with Waller County Appraisal District. Any final questions or comments before you vote? Please cast your votes. Should be one more. All right, all votes in. The resolution passes 7-0, 7-4-0 against, 0 abstain. Thank you.
Thank y'all for your time.
Thank you.
Ms. Warren, if you may, calendar committee, I'm very well aware that tomorrow you guys are off. So if you would like to go ahead and leave, you guys are welcome to leave. Thank you, guys. Except for one.
Except for one. I just said, can I have the keys to the track?
I am moving out of the front row.
All right, that'll take us to item number 9, informational items. 9A, board policy update. Board meetings presented by Deputy Superintendent Ms. Angie Davis.
Good evening, President Warren, Superintendent Mays, and members of the board. Tonight, I bring to you Board Policy BE Local. Based on the wishes of the board, the school board meeting time will be adjusted from 6:30 p.m. to 5 p.m. This adjustment is being reflected in Board Policy BE Local for your review. Any questions?
Board members, any questions? All right, very good. Thank you, Ms. Davis.
Thank you.
Item 9B, fall benchmark data reports. A whole slew of presenters. Director of Assessment and Accountability, Ms. Hannah Gates. Director of Curriculum and Instruction, Elementary, Charlene Davis Norris. Director of Curriculum and Instruction, Secondary, Ms. Tracy Underwood. Welcome.
Good evening again. Tonight we are going to talk about our middle of the year data update for the 25-26 school year. This is a collaborative report between myself, Tracy Underwood, and Charlene Norris, our Directors of Curriculum and Instruction, along with Dr. White, who will chime in as well to help us out. So the first thing we're going to talk about is what are the goals and what's the purpose of providing this information and monitoring this. We always want to monitor our student progress. It helps us guide our instruction, make decisions, help close those learning gaps, and implement any targeted supports that are needed to improve our student outcomes. So who are we serving here in Waller? So this is a student snapshot. We have over 11,000 students. Over half, 56%, are economically disadvantaged, and 51% are currently identified as at risk. So this is a very diverse snapshot, which reminds us why we must be so intentional in supporting every subgroup at all 11 campuses. So the first thing is I will walk you through some data, and then Charlene and Tracy will take you through some targeted support plans. And so the first thing is I want to kind of explain what these charts look like. And so we have a chart for each section of our content. And so, for example, this is our reading language arts grades 3 through 5. That first column is going to be our most recent fall benchmark information, our data, at the approaches, meets, and masters level. And then we have our last year fall benchmark data, and so we can compare a year-to-year comparison. That very next column that has those green and red highlights shows that difference in where we grew or where we fell in those areas. So green is a grow and red is a fall. And then I did keep 2 years worth of STAR data just so you can make that comparison, even though fall to STAR is not apples to apples. Off to the far right, you will see in orange our growth. And so we talked a little bit about growth earlier. So we have 2 years worth of growth. I recalibrated last year's growth. So we are making an equal comparison with students from the beginning of the year or last year's STAR, depending on the assessment, to that fall benchmark. So here we are in reading language arts grades 3 through 5. We see lots of green. That's a very great thing to see. We are seeing some significant growth between that like 5 and lots of up to 9% in that meets and masters area. And as you can see off to the right, we had 10% increase in our growth in 3rd grade RLA, 6% in 4th grade RLA. And then we did see a little dip. You can see in 5th grade, it basically remains stagnant. And so if we do look at math, I would say overall this is a very flat section where we are not showing a lot of growth yet, but we are making some action plans. We will discuss those soon. But this is good information for us to see. You don't see big drops, but you are seeing a lot of very close to zero numbers. In science grade 5, we are seeing some green and a huge growth in our growth rate of 14 points. That's off to the far right with a 9% growth in meets, which is incredible at 5th grade science. In reading language arts secondary, grades 6 through English 2, 6th and 7th, you are seeing some very strong gains in our academic achievement as well as our growth. And we are remaining a little more stagnant, and we are seeing some dips in 8th grade and up in English. And so we are working very hard on analyzing that. We are doing a lot of calibrating of information that wasn't possibly done as much last year when we grade those extended constructed responses and that writing piece. And so Tracy will speak more to that. But there is some information that we have to dive into to look at a little closer on that. So then we have our secondary math, and you are seeing lots of green with some incredible highlights at the Algebra 1 level, at the junior high and the high school. You can see those meets and masters numbers increase in like the double digits across the board. So that's great news, as well as that growth. And so we are very excited to celebrate that. We've had a very structured curriculum in math that we're now moving into that 2nd and 3rd year of, as well as increased rigor. And you're definitely seeing the gains at those higher levels, which is excellent news. In our science and social studies at 8th grade, as well as biology and U.S. history, we are seeing some increases in our growth off to the right. Some of our scores are staying a little more on the flat side, but we do have some biology and U.S. history at that meets and masters level. We do see some increases there as well. Up next, we are going to talk about elementary targeted plans.
Thank you so much, Hannah. So once the data was reviewed, our team at the district level, we began to do a deep dive into what our district priorities would be for this spring semester. And I think I pushed the right button. Yes. So based on the data, we saw gains in 3rd and 4th grade reading, which Hannah highlighted, in the approaches, meets, and masters area. And math also had gains in 3rd grade approaches. And overall science showed achievements in approaches, meets, and masters, which was very positive. Our areas of opportunities in reading language arts are in 5th grade because the scores are stagnant. And in math, our 4th and 5th grade achievement in approaches, meets, and masters, and 3rd grade meets and masters are opportunities for us. So when looking at our data for RLA, there's an emphasis that was put on the importance of independent reading, making sure that our students are reading more in their classrooms. In our January PD, we focus on the response to reading and our ECRs with no zeros and going deeper with their explanations. We also provided training and guidance on intentional small group action plans with both reading and writing. And we are currently spending more time in each genre that will all be retested prior to the spring benchmark. And so currently our teachers are working through having those intentional conversations with our students and teaching our students to deconstruct prompts, analyze text structures, the authentic text, and the rigorous questioning that is followed by small group instruction that is based on TEKS and the writing conferences. In math, we are working through the implementation of the district math framework with Fidelity, and that does include spending the 60 minutes in the Bluebonnet lesson for math, followed by the 25 minutes that is needed for our targeted small group instruction. We're using our standards-based progression and Bluebonnet course guide and documents to plan and deliver intentional daily fluency activities and application problems that are aligned to the benchmark data to support whole group reteaching of high priority standards as needed. And we are ensuring that our win time has purposeful groups based on data that includes intervention and extension to meet the needs of all of our learners. Our action steps for math have been all of these things. And so I am now going to turn it over to Tracy, who is going to lead you through what's happening in secondary.
Thank you, Charlene. Glad to be here tonight and talk about what's going on in our secondary world. As we looked at our data, we saw strengths, as you saw, as we looked at the charts that Hannah shared. Our 6th and 7th grade reading language arts classes showed significant gains in all those performance areas. Our English 1 and 2 honors classes did show some gains as well, significant gains at the master's level. So that was an aha for us to look at as well. In math, we saw 7th and 8th grade showing gains at the master's level, with 8th grade Algebra 1 up 12% in masters, which was a huge celebration. Our Algebra 1 EOC at the high school gained 19% in meets and 10% in masters, and double-digit gains at those levels are super, super important for us to celebrate, and we're really, really proud of the progress that our students are making and the hard work of our teachers on that front. In science and social studies, both of our EOC teams showed gains at all performance levels. So again, these were big celebrations that we saw from our data, and we're able to celebrate that work as we looked forward. Okay, let's see if I pushed the right one. Nope. Here we go. So when we looked at opportunities, our 8th grade RLA scores on both campuses show some room for improvement, so we're working hard with our coaches there. 6th grade math master's scores are lagging. You know, we still have the advanced courses in math at the junior high, and so we expect to see the master's scores a little higher, so we looked at that. 8th grade science at the meets level, that grade level expectation, our scores are a little bit flat there. And in our English 1 and 2 on-level classes, we're not seeing yet some of the progress that we want to see. So those were our opportunities that we looked at as we set our action plans. So currently this semester in our junior highs, we've increased the use through our coaches on each campus of ensuring our RLA district adopted materials are being utilized by our teachers, that grade level rigor in their reading is what we're utilizing in the classroom. So kind of really, really emphasizing that we're using our adopted resources to find readings for kids has made a big difference since January. On that January 5th PD Day, we targeted professional development with our teachers around analytical thinking with some of those more rigorous texts. So we modeled what that looks like with the teachers acting as students and then modeling that so that they could take it back to the classroom. We've already seen teachers doing very similar lessons to those with our students. On the math side, implementing our Bluebonnet math lessons with fidelity, including that time for independent practice and struggle. That's been a piece that we're really focusing on with our classroom instruction. And also increasing our student-to-student discourse. We were seeing student-to-teacher increase, but not yet students talking. So we're really focusing on that as well currently. And then we, through science, ensuring that 40% is hands-on labs. We've got to get kids doing the science, and that's been a big emphasis from our science coordinator around those science classrooms. At the high school for RLA, I'll speak just a second to what Hannah mentioned. With the opportunity to have an English coach on each campus, we had more time to work on calibrating and really focusing in on that ECR, that 10-point piece of the STAR test for reading language arts. At the high school especially, last year our ECR for the benchmark was given really early relative to the actual multiple choice final exam where the high school takes it. So we wanted to push that writing a little closer, but because of the turnaround time for teachers, our coach at the high school was able to do the scoring with those essays for the teachers. So it allowed, and she's been extensively trained, works with Region 4, has lots of experience with the rubrics and scoring. So having one person score those essays, those ECRs allowed for a much more calibrated scoring, but it did, we feel pretty sure, impacted probably the data just a little bit. From that, however, by having a singular person really do that and then work with our teachers, we've developed really targeted action plans around that writing task. So while that work was a lot, I think that it's led to some very good conversations and moves forward. From that, that's where the focus on unity and coherence came. In terms of having one person's eyes, we were able to develop that focus with our writing instruction at the high school through the rest of the semester. And campus response meetings? Yep.
So obviously, we did a lot of talking and debriefing and analyzing data as a district team, and then we also took it to the campus level. And before I dig into really what that looked like, I sit here and I listen to what the team is sharing, and I think back on how these campus meetings went that I'm about to talk to you guys about, and I'm just so proud. I want y'all to know I'm really proud of the work that the district and our campuses are doing together this year, and I'm happy to be able to speak to it tonight. So we were able to identify bright spots and areas of need, which Tracy and Charlene just shared with you guys, and share those out with the principals so that they could kind of start thinking through, you know, what we're seeing from our lens. And then January was a very busy month because that first week that we were back in January, we went to a team of TLI and campus administration, or district administration went to every campus, and we worked with the instructional leadership teams on every campus to build targeted action plans. And so we shared with them at that time what the district action steps were, but we also worked with them to determine down to the grade level and teacher specific areas of need, what we can do to support the work very specifically on that campus. And so it was very exciting that we had our TLI collaborative walks the very next week. And so when we went and we walked the campuses, we saw the things that we had talked about already in place that very next week. And I think that's one reason that I'm so proud of the work that the campuses have done here. So then we went back the third week of January as a cabinet team, and we checked in with campuses on their SMART goals, which that's what they presented to you as part of their CIPs at the beginning of the year. And as we had those SMART goal meetings, we saw so many of those things being spoken to. They were able to say the action plans that they had already put in place. PLC supports targeted coaching cycles, schedule adjustments, modeling, small group support, PLC things, all kinds of things. So that was really exciting. So I'm happy now to turn it back over to Hannah because we have a hot off the press data item, which is our NWEA map that just closed about a week and a half ago. And I think that you will already be able to see some positive gains based on the adjustments that we made from our benchmark data.
So this is our first year giving the NWEA map assessments. We are giving it K through 8th grade. These are a nationally norm referenced assessment. And so what you can see here is the first thing is we're going to talk about achievement percentiles. And so you can see the far left chart is our math, our middle chart is reading, and our right chart is science, which is only given 5th through 8th grade. That achievement tells us where we stand nationally, but then I'm going to talk about the growth in a minute, and that tells us how effectively we are moving students forward regardless of where they start. So this is our achievement. These are percentiles, and as you can see, that key on the right tells us which quintile we fall in. And again, a percentile is how well the student's performing across other students in that same spot, same grade, same part of the school year, same content. These are not percent scores. These are not how many a student got right out of a total. These are percentiles, where they fall in the group, like where they fall in the race of 100 people, right? Are they first place, last place? The higher the percentile, the better. Okay. So as you can see, we do have some green areas at achievement in the 60th percentile, which is incredible. I mean, as you can see on math, we moved from a lot of yellow to more green. And that is showing we are on pace to make more than a year's worth of progress for these students. So that's a bright spot compared to some of the things I just shared a few minutes ago. And as you follow that across, 50% is the national average. So anything above 50 is better than that national average. So that's our achievement data here. And then I'll talk about, I kind of already went over this. Some of the bright spots are, those increases in math. We had increases in every area. And so really this is from that strong Tier 1 foundation, but it's really from all of these campuses putting all these plans in place and really digging into the data. We've sat through a lot of training on how to read these assessments, interpret it, and to see what students need. And campuses are taking that back and implementing that information. Okay, and so now here is that growth. And so you can see the math, reading, and science percentile. So this is a growth from beginning to middle of the year. Again, we are seeing in that yellow quintile, but lots over 50%. We had a growth percentile of over 55 in math and 58 in math and reading, and 58 in science. And so these are some really great gains here. So again, that tells us what is that expected growth, no matter where they started. I think that's hard to differentiate sometimes, and so I think that we really have to look at where they fall based on every other student in the nation that's taking this test is that achievement, but where they grow to is that growth piece. So are there any questions?
What's NWEA MAP stand for? I'm gonna probably put you on the spot.
MAP it's an aptitude test. It actually uses a RIT score, which is this, it's a random number, but it's statistically defined, right? It's to compare where you are. And so as kids in that 3rd and 4th grade test, they're getting scores in like the 130s and 140s. And as they grow into 6th grade and they get into the 160s and 70s. So that score range stays with them that whole time. We have lots of goal setting meetings with kids. They can talk about it. We hear kids say, you know, what'd you get? What did you get? It tells them that score right away. It's an aptitude test. So it does change as they take the test. So it is going to continue to challenge them and find where they are. It is not a stagnant test for all kids.
Yeah, but I'm a nerd. I want to know what the
I
acronym stands
don't
for.
It stands for Measure of Academic Progress.
And the NWEA says Northwest Evaluation
There you go.
Association. Thank you.
We're gonna-
Thank you, guys.
We're collective
I need
team.
all the help I can get.
I got you. We're acronyms. We don't like all that. We do acronyms.
All right. Board members, any serious questions?
I think it was serious.
Yeah, I'll take a chance. So, we started Bluebonnet in ELA how long ago?
In math, about 3 years ago, last year with more fidelity, and this year some grade levels progressed a little faster than others, but we are technically in our 3rd year. It has changed names.
3rd year of math.
Math.
Okay, so ELA, is this the first year, or we're going to it
No.
this coming year?
That's coming up soon.
Okay.
So in just a little while, we'll be presenting some proposed high-quality instructional material adoptions for next year. Bluebonnet was one that was considered, but we have not currently adopted the Bluebonnet reading curriculum.
Okay.
And we are in our 4th year of secondary Bluebonnet math, which was Carnegie previously. But we are actually in year 2 in grades 2 through 5 of Eureka, which then turned into Bluebonnet. And we're actually in year 1 of kindergarten and 1st grade Bluebonnet because we didn't go to Eureka before Bluebonnet there.
Okay. I was looking at the math grades 3 through 5, and so the growth, no, let me go back. Science, social studies, and biology, U.S. history. You've got much higher growth over last year, but yet the benchmark is not reflecting, I mean, is that an anomaly, or would you expect to see higher growth year over year, but a lower benchmark score when you compare to last year?
Well, the comparisons are not the same students, so that's what's hard. The growth score is literally calculated as the percentage of the students that are meeting the targeted growth goal. And by the end of the year, that'll be 1 year's worth of progress. And so comparing that growth is not those are different students. And if you do remember 5th grade science, last year our STAR scores, 2 years ago, our STAR scores we struggled there. And so we are definitely expecting to see some gains. And so when when you are comparing 2 years worth of growth, they're not the same kids, and so that does make it hard. So you can have different achievement levels, but it all depends on where the students start. And those tests are locally developed pre-tests at the 8th grade science and social studies.
Yeah, okay. And in the math grades 3 through 5, we're not, the best we have is a couple of zeros, benchmark differences, and the others are slight negatives. And also our growth from one year to the next dropped in each of those. But yet, when you look at the MAP scores, we're above the national average. What are we seeing? What do you think we're seeing there?
So to speak to the benchmarks first, as Charlene kind of shared, when we dug into the data and we really talked to the campuses and down to the teachers to see what was going on, the Bluebonnet curriculum is incredibly rigorous and it's time heavy, right? You've seen it in some of our walks. You've seen the teachers having to set the timers and cut off certain components at the right time so that they can get to what's next. And so in our instructional framework, we have always had small group instruction for the last 20 to 25 minutes, depending on the grade level. And we found that teachers they're rule followers and they want to get to everything. And so they were persisting through every component of the curriculum and not necessarily getting to shut it down and get to that small group instruction. So they're supposed to administer an exit ticket from that day's learning and then intervene on the spot, but we were missing the intervening on the spot. And so when we discovered that in December and then took care of it in early January with these campus meetings, we immediately shifted our focus to where we were honoring the framework with small group instruction and with that tier 1 small group piece. So I believe that some of what you're seeing in MAP is because we responded to the data. And so I think that some of the increased gains and growth is there because of that. But I also think that our state assessment is incredibly rigorous, and MAP is a nationally normed assessment. And so it is possible that our kids are not quite performing where we want them to be yet on the state assessment, but they are outperforming the average of the nation.
Yeah, okay. And I remember the last walks we did, we had discussions about the exit tickets.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember, okay. So kind of a joking question, but just curious minds want to know. And I'm a numbers guy. So if I have at mid-year a 5% gain over last year's STAR scores, would I be looking for a 10% gain on the end of the actual STAR scores this year?
So I would do a lot of comparing the fall benchmark to the STAR of that year. And that's why I provided both of those pieces of information for you. Because if, on average, we are gaining 10 points from our fall benchmark to our end of the year STAR, and we are showing higher growth and a faster pace, then we know we expect to see more than 10-point gain on that at the end. So, I think to answer your question, yes, but the middle of the year is really not half of our instruction. Testing starts at the beginning of April. And so it's not quite that easy, but if you can do that fall benchmark or when we come back in the spring benchmark to end of year and see what those differences are, students also tend to outperform on STAR than they do on the benchmark. They take it far more seriously and they know the stakes.
All right. And so speaking of scores, so there's some phenomenal gains in here, some 9s, 10s, 12s.
Yes, sir.
How do you replicate that?
We're working very hard to replicate that. And if we could clone humans, that would be step one. We've got teachers walking other teachers' classrooms, teachers teaming, that PLC. We are going to work, and I'm going to talk about this again in my next presentation, but we really focus on students getting the team of teachers. They don't just get one teacher, they get that team. And so first step, build a strong team. As we have pockets of incredible teachers, then we build the team, then we build the grade level, and then we continue to expand. And so we just continue to work and look at what is working and do our best to replicate it at every point along the way.
Okay.
So, yeah, with the bright spots and inviting other campuses and other instructional leadership teams to see what's working in our highest performing classrooms. And we've also tried to do that with our TLI collaborative meetings too. We've started a thing called Fireside Chats. And each month we try to zero in on something that's going really well in a group of our campuses that's positively impacting our data. And we invite the principal up to kind of speak to that in like an interview format. So we're really just trying to push into learning from each other and collaborating and getting better together as much as we can.
And my final question, has the state made a determination yet if they're going to accept MAP as one of the benchmark tests?
They have not announced their approved list for benchmarks. However, we do plan to continue to use MAP. We are going to use it for our early reading indicator screeners and our dyslexia screener. That is the MAP fluency piece that we're going to add next year. And MAP is also working towards combining the growth assessment with the fluency into one assessment, so we're not giving so many. We do expect that it will likely be approved. They're working with TEA. They have an RFP out right now. We've just spoken with MAP. They were just here this week to provide a training, but that list has not been released.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
If it is approved, is there any chance we're gonna use it as the benchmark?
We absolutely could. We'll have to see what the state provides and what they provide themselves and what they approve.
Are benchmarks harder on average than the actual STAR test to really
They're
try to drive
typically
out?
release STAR questions, so in the fall, it mirrors STAR up to that content that has been taught. And in the spring, it is an exact replica of a STAR test. It is a release test.
Okay.
So when we had the STAR redesign, we had some shifts. We couldn't really compare 2 years in a row. In 2 years, when we have that again, it'll be a hard comparison, but typically, yes.
Okay. Any other questions? I've said it before, it means a lot to me, I'll say it again. Boots on the ground, you talked a lot about your campus walks, right? I mean, I love to see y'all out on campuses, making sure that you're present to where the challenges are and you can see what's going on, and that's so very valuable, so thank you for that. Board members, anything else? Okay, thank y'all very much.
Thank you.
All right, time for one of my most exciting conversations. 9C, I'm told we're gonna combine 9C and D, teacher incentive allotment update, and teacher incentive allotment revised plan for 26. Presenters, Director of Assessment and Accountability, Hannah Gates, and Director of Human Resources, Ms. Stephanie Fletcher.
Good evening again. Ms. Fletcher and I are going to talk about the teacher incentive allotment. We are going to combine our update from last year and our last 5-year first-time plan in TIA, and then we're going to talk about our revised plan that we're looking to submit to TEA for the next 5 years. So the goals of this is to review that current 5-year plan. We want to share our pending designations and our big celebrations with you all today. We're going to talk about that stakeholder group that we created in order to make the best decisions and any tweaks to the plan that we needed to do to prepare for our next 5 years.
Good evening. The teacher incentive allotment is designed to attract, retain, and reward highly effective teachers. At its core, TIA emphasizes student growth and teacher effectiveness across our campuses. The goal is to ensure that outstanding teaching is being recognized. Waller ISD has been intentional in its approach to TIA from the beginning. We have focused on building a strong evaluation system, aligning instructional expectations, and ensuring that the process is fair, transparent, and data-driven. The foundation has allowed us to grow participation while maintaining trust. Under our current plan, teacher designations are based on a balanced system that values both instructional practices and student outcomes. The plan has guided our work over the past 5 years and has provided important lessons as we look ahead to the next cycle. Of the allotment funds, 90% is paid directly to teachers, while 10% is retained by the district to support benefits, administrator training, professional development, and assessment-related costs that support the overall system. During the first 2 years of implementation, we focused on pre-K through 8 and our EOC courses that related to RLA and math. In year 3, we expanded to include all core content teachers, and in year 4, we incorporated core content in-class support teachers and resource teachers. This year, we further broadened our eligibility to include dyslexia, reset, and ISET teachers. Each year, our strategic approach has been to thoughtfully expand eligible categories while ensuring continued system validation and fidelity. I am proud to tell you that currently 80% of our teachers are in an eligible category, and 42% of those eligible teachers have earned a designation.
And the best news Ms. Fletcher did not share is we passed data validation. Thank goodness. We just found out last week, so those designations that said pending will be official when TEA sends them their official letter in April. So let's talk about the next 5 years. So we created this stakeholder group. It had 50 members from our district. We had teachers of all content areas, some eligible, some not currently eligible. Had administrators, instructional support, special education, and our multilingual department. We went through 3 evening working sessions to dive in. We had to teach what the plan is, teach all of the rules associated with the plan, and then go through lots of options. We provided lots of resources. We gave that group multiple surveys, sometimes on short notice, like, hey, we need to ask you one more question. And then we did this really great dotmocracy activity where they got different amounts of dots to go put on their poster as a voting system. And I have pictures if you want to see. It was really fun. And so then from that stakeholder group, we made a subcommittee, and this is that leadership team for TIA that's really going to make those decisions. We had HR, TLI, the business office, and our school administration involved. We reviewed our data, and then we really had to hone in and make those final decisions we're going to share with you today. So that new plan, we are looking to shift to a 60% student growth model. We're reducing that T-test Domain 2 and 3 summative evaluation percentage down to 30%, and we are adding a new component, and 10% of that rating will come from Domain 4 of the T-test summative. And so Domain 4 is that professional practices and responsibilities. Domain 4 directly impacts Tier 1 instruction because it includes all of our professional development, our participation and leading the PLCs, and it goes back to what I mentioned earlier. You don't get the teacher, you get the team. All means all. Like all of our kids get all of our teachers and all of our teams. And the stakeholder committee was incredibly, overwhelmingly excited to add this component. The other piece that Domain 4 includes is that school and community involvement and teacher attendance. And so they were very adamant about the Domain 4 piece and that teacher attendance, and this encompasses both of those things. The allotment distribution remains consistent with 90% paid directly to the teacher and 10% withheld for our benefits, assessments, and professional development. So our new eligible teacher groups, we are already in. So what we do is we have to practice our data first before we put it in as live data. We call it our data practice year. And we're doing that for our Cans and Sales programs right now. And so next year they will go into live data to be eligible to earn that. And then the next groups in this order are what that stakeholder committee determined that asked us to look at, involving CTE, which is over 50 teachers in Waller. Our languages other than English teachers are Spanish and French, fine arts, and then PE. And so What we are looking at is how we will measure all of these things. And we're going to bring them in as we can progress into a data practice year first, and then they will go live. But we do plan on introducing new groups next year. Questions?
Board members?
Just a comment question. I know that looking at the distribution of money, 90% goes to the teachers, 10% goes to retirement, whatnot, or administrative parts. To make it clear, we could actually take more of that and put it to the district, that 90%, but we as Waller choose not to, because can't you put it towards more administrative items?
No. So we can't, the 90% has to go to the teachers. We can only take 10%, but we do get to decide, do we want to use that money to help fund the TIA team who's supporting the
Right.
program? Do we want it to go to assessments? But we have to give that 90% to the teachers.
To the teachers or
Or they could have
associated
voted it-
people, but we give it to the teachers, correct?
We do give it to the teachers
Yeah.
in our democracy. We did have the option up of, did they want to give a percentage to the support staff?
Right.
And that did not go to the top in our activity with our stakeholders. But you are able to take part of that 90% with the teachers and give to your instructional support that directly works with students. Our instructional paras. What we are not able to do is place our dyslexia or in-class support teachers into that category at this time because they are currently an eligible category for us. So they can't be in this area and also be in the support staff area. They have to go either here or in the support staff. And so since we put them through as an eligible category, they will remain in that eligible category section. But as far as the whole goes, the district cannot take any of the 90% to move into that 10% section to use for things. But the team could have voted to take part of that 90% to share with those instructional staff on campus. Does that answer?
Yeah, maybe not a question, but a comment. I was glad to see the change going forward to 60% to student growth now, because, I mean, that's what we're here for. And so, in the domain 4, is that also like included in there is like following the best practices that are driven from the academic team down to the campus level and to the teacher level? Do I read that right? The professional practices and responsibilities?
It is. It's more of we're following our code of ethics. We are doing the curriculum, the delivery, the instruction that has been set forth for us. We are reliable, we're showing up to work, and we're taking care of business. And we're impacting that big picture of our campus, not just our classroom.
Yeah, so that's one of the things that we see when we come out of the walks, when we come out of the classroom, and you guys talk about seeing what you thought you would see on this day being taught and through the learning that had gone on previously through the teaching. So I love the adjustments that you made moving forward. I think that's a smart thing to do for the TIA. And just lastly, a chance for you to to kind of shout out to Waller. TIA in Waller compared to other school districts, not just in the area, but in the state. Tell us about the participation rate and the offerings in Waller.
So I know you're a numbers guy and I don't have all the numbers, but I do sit in a group called Way Out West for HR directors. And when I go to those meetings, they are asking us, what are we doing? Because they do not have as many eligible categories going on in their district. They're focused on a campus or they're focused on a small group, a small area. They do not have the number of eligible opportunities that we have put forward. And so I will tell you, it makes me proud to sit in those meetings, to know that we have taken that huge step forward in supporting more teachers in our district. and allowing them that opportunity. But we are ahead of the pack in Texas. Yeah.
So as we increase our eligible teaching categories, that costs a lot of money, right? We have to buy assessments. We need Spanish 1 through 4 tests, French 1 through 4. We need welding assessments and cosmetology and all of these things. And you can imagine, you know all of the programs that we offer. So each of those courses, in order to make sure each teacher is eligible, we don't want to say everyone but welding, oh, you 5 teachers aren't eligible, but everybody else is. We want to make sure we can bring them in as a group. And so that's what we're really diving into, what those, and we shared with that stakeholder group the costs of the assessments and how we, the assessment options that we have. And we really are ahead because not very many districts are including all of those groups. And so there's a couple that are, but most of them are very star-based at this time.
Has to be a pretty sweet recruiting tool.
Yes, yes. So it's about $1.5 million this last year brought to our teachers.
Yeah, it's amazing watching the numbers, the amount of money given back to the teachers just go up and up every year. So it's just, like I said, it's a very exciting program. I love it. I'm excited that our teachers get, a pat on the back in their pocketbook, right? And we give the state a hard time a lot of times about funding, but this is one that I'm so glad that they can give back, and so we can give back to our frontline teachers and the hard work that y'all do to make sure that they're eligible. It's an amazing program, so.
So also a great thing the state did, which we don't always say, is they added a 4th category next year. So we can now qualify up to 50% of our teachers each year. And so instead of that 33%, so they add a new acknowledged level, and they took the recognized level that was the bottom before and aligned the payout at the acknowledged level and then increased the pay on the other 3 levels. So that was great news. We can celebrate that.
Absolutely. All right, thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
All right, group, we're coming down to the end. We got 3 more quick curriculum adoptions to discuss, and then we'll wrap it up. 9E, Elementary Reading Language Arts Curriculum Adoption, presented by Director of Curriculum and Instruction, Elementary, Charlene Davis Norris.
Greetings again.
Yes, ma'am.
So this school year, we have closely reviewed our reading instruction through the lens of the Texas Strategic Landscape Analysis, the State Board of Education's high-quality instructional materials review process and rubric, and carefully listening to our teachers for feedback. So after evaluation, the need to explore a new reading curriculum that better aligns with our instructional goals and meets our students' needs was very clear. So we conducted a thorough review of 3 SBOE-approved publishers that have been officially designated as high-quality instructional materials for considerations, and those were Savvis, Bluebonnet Reading, and HMH. On January 29th, each publisher participated in a reading showcase, allowing our team to examine the materials, the instructional design, and the alignment of the state standards. After careful consideration, we recommend that the Board of Trustees adopt HMH as the district's reading curriculum with implementation beginning in the 2026-2027 school year. More information on costs is pending negotiation with the publishers, but WallerISD administration intends to use the state entitlement funds to the fullest extent possible. This recommendation supports high-quality, standard-aligned instruction while providing teachers with strong instructional resources and professional learning, ultimately strengthening our literacy outcomes for all students. So are there any questions that I can answer regarding this at this time?
Board members? I think we're good.
Thank you so much.
All right, 9F, Junior High Reading Language Arts Curriculum Adoption by Secondary Tracy Underwood.
Thank you for having me again. When we were reviewing our curriculum, while the secondary does not fall yet into that EMRA process, we know based on our Texas Strategic Leadership feedback and also our coaches on campus and our teachers that we really are looking for, we wanted to explore what's out there currently with the reading curriculum. So following the process that our elementary friends did, we also reviewed and pulled in 3 high-quality publishers, and we worked to try to align as much as we could with what the elementary was looking at. There does not exist yet Bluebonnet for grades 6 through 8, but we did review Savvis, HMH, and our current adoption, which is Study Sync through McGraw-Hill. So looking at those three, we also had a curriculum showcase on the 29th. We were upstairs, elementary was downstairs. We had lots of teachers, some principals, so our coaches were there. They were able to see and hear the presentation from all three publishers. We additionally placed samples on campuses, so teachers who were not able to come that night could review the samples, digital access, as well as the consumables and teacher editions. So all teachers had the opportunity to review those materials. We held a vote, and after taking all of the input from our teachers and reviewing again with our coaches who work very closely with the curriculum on each campus, we are bringing forth for recommendation to the board the top choice of teachers, which was HMH into literature for our district's 6 through 8 reading language arts curriculum. This purchase would be funded with our instructional materials allotment funding. More information regarding that cost is we're in negotiations right now with that publisher. This adoption of HMH will also, as it does in elementary, support high-quality, standards-aligned, rigorous grade-level instruction, providing our teachers with strong instructional resources and professional learning. Ultimately, we know this will be what's best for our students. May I answer any questions about reading 6 through 8 curriculum?
One quick question, I think kind of for all of them, it looks like, looking at the board packets, these are all State Board of Education approved or?
Well, secondary reading is not into that process yet, but HMH is approved at elementary, so with the quality-wise, we expect that whenever secondary reading does come into that process, that will be likely those publishers that have been successful at elementary, we expect that would be something replicated when the secondary comes into that process.
Okay. Thank you. And don't go anywhere, Ms. Underwood, you've got the last one, 9G.
This one's even shorter.
AP US History Curriculum Adoption. Go
Yes,
ahead.
thank you again. Thank you for having me one more time. Each year, as part of our College Board syllabus audit at the high school, our advanced placement courses are, we have to affirm as we confirm those syllabi through the College Board that the textbook that students have access to is college level and it's within 10 years of a publication date. Currently, our AP US History textbook, as of this year going into next, will be past that publication range. So using the input and reviewing our College Board recommended resources, our AP US History teacher and our Social Studies coordinator reviewed those options and their, aligned support for students as far as AP test preparation and college level instruction. And they have selected BFW's Fabric of a Nation, published in 2024, that edition. This choice includes several supplemental materials for teachers and students, including AP test preparation and digital resources. This adoption of BFW's Fabric of a Nation for our APUSH classes supports high-quality college-level instruction and provides teachers with robust instructional resources, professional learning, and ultimately, we know this will strengthen our students' college readiness in this course. May I answer any questions about AP US History and our curriculum recommendation? All right.
No,
Thank you very much.
Very good, thank you. All right, as we close, the board has asked that I recognize or embarrass someone in the audience. We previously called her Miss Crosby, but now we get to call her Dr. Crosby for just completing her doctorate. Congratulations. Future board items, number 10, spring proposed library materials policy EFB local. I think this is the first go-around of the year, or this year is the first go-around, so we will see how that goes, and us board members are, we're leaning on y'all, so. All right, 11, important dates, Superintendent Mays.
Mr. Warren, if I may, before I do important dates, I would really like to make a statement. When you listen to all the presentations that was presented tonight, there was a word that was said a lot, and it's we. If you go back to Convocation, one of the things that we kind of talked about at Convocation is we are Waller, and you walk on campus and you see the flavor of we. When you see the work that's happening between campuses, teachers going to visit other campuses to see what is working well, assistant principals going to the other campus to see what is working well. The flavor we is great, and sitting in this seat, I love seeing it, I love hearing it, and I'm gonna repeat, I said see already, but I definitely love watching it. And just listening to the presentations, I mean, all you hear is we, and the way that we get to where we're gonna be is continue to be we, work together, no isolation, and I'm proud of what I see. So with that being said, here's the important dates. Tomorrow is a student holiday. February 16th is a student holiday, but a teacher professional development day. February the 18th is a Houston Food Bank and School Market. We also had the Houston School Food Bank and Food Market on yesterday, where we fed 466 families. February 23rd through the 26th is the FFA Livestock Show. Then on the 25th, we'll have the Houston Food Bank Again Market, as well as the FFA Buyers Dinner and Auction. So if you know anyone that wants to buy an animal, if there's anyone sitting out there want to buy an animal or project, the 27th would be a great day to do that. Last but not least, March 5th is the next board meeting, and that's right around the corner, and it's moved to the first Thursday due to us being on spring break, the second Thursday of the month. Then we fall into some benchmark testing, which I know everyone loves, so we can get the correct data that we need, and so it's listed out there. So once again, thank you guys for everyone for what you do, and board, you guys as well.
And do we have a flyer for that, buyers? Because I have a lot of people to send that to.
We'll get something to you, because I just got one on my desk today.
Very good. Well, with no other business left, I take us to item number 12, adjourned by my watch at 8:30. Thank you, everyone, for coming out, and have a good night.
Good, good. Considering what
One bet, yeah.
like